June was a month to forget if you're the Washington Nationals, but let me tell you why July is going to be a month to remember for those Nats.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I am your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals for all your latest Nationals news and notes. Make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts. And later on in today's show, we'll have a Nats Tigers series preview as one of the best teams in all of baseball. They come to town for a 3-game series, and it's not going to be easy. We'll explain that and kind of jump into that preview later on in today's program. But in the second segment, we are now in the second half for the Washington Nationals. They are 35-49. They're probably on pace for around 70 wins at this point. It might even be less, really. But what should we expect in the second half? And really, what should we be watching for? And what are those headlines entering the second half of this season? We'll discuss that in that second segment. But we start off discussing June being a bad month for the Nationals. Let's flip the page and turn to July. It's not going to be easy. But before we jump into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is FanDuel.com. So it has been widely acknowledged that June was a month to forget for the Washington Nationals. They had that 11-game losing skid. The Nationals took all the way to the end there against the Angels to finally win their first series in the month of June. And I think this month was probably the hardest of the rebuild, really. This month in general was awful. But now the Nationals, they're going to have to turn the page really quick because July, it's a huge month for this team right now, but also just for the organization as a whole. And we start off with some of the big things coming for this Nationals team. It's the number one pick in the draft. The Nationals, and Mike Rizzo specifically, they have no wiggle room. You have to hit this number one overall pick. You have to. Right now in this rebuild, the debate is on. Is this rebuild going to work, or is this going to fall flat in our face? And if we think that it might fall flat in our face, and for some reasons it's, pretty solid, I could say, and that they have done savvy moves, they have had a lot of young talent here, but right now the Nationals are not winning games, and we expected them to be better, and they should be better. So, with your talent in the farm system, while it's good, while Travis Sakura is someone that you can parade around, Harleen Susanna has a bright future, it seems like, and Luke Dickerson seems to be the real deal. Seaver King is still kicking the tires down in AA, but you've had the number one overall pick now, and you have got a couple of guys who could be really good players there holding that number one pick. It could be Ethan Holiday. It could be Cade Anderson from LSU. Or maybe it's another college pitcher. Or maybe another prep bat like Eli Willits. The Nationals, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have to hit a home run with this pick. They have to. And you better hope that this guy is a star. And this puts a lot of pressure on the front office, by the way. This is not going to be something that I think fans will take nicely. If you cut a deal at number one, and let's say take a lesser talent at that number one pick, worse things could happen, but you have to take the biggest swing possible. If I'm Mike Rizzo, you brought in Brad Ciolek to kind of run the draft, and you have Danny Haas coming from the Arizona Diamondbacks. You have new figures in these new roles in this front office. But if I'm Rizzo, I'm going in those meetings every single day and telling them, we need to hit on a superstar. We need to get the highest ceiling possible, and we need to hit on this guy, and he needs to make a big impact for this team pretty soon. The wait and see mode is kind of gone at this point, if you were to ask me. We don't really have the ability, and we don't really have the power, number one, to spend in free agency to make up for missing on a number one overall pick. You have to hit this one out of the park. This is probably the most pressured draft for Mike Rizzo in quite some time, maybe since selecting Bryce Harper number one overall back in 2010. I can't say it enough, but you have to hit on this pick. You simply have to. And really kind of change the news around the team and just kind of the storyline surrounding the Nationals at this point. Because yesterday, for instance, the Nationals just announced a jersey patch sponsorship. AARP. It's cool to bring some extra revenue to this team. It's something that we should have been doing years ago at this point. But now you finally sell that. And, it's a good deal, I guess. Again, it's bringing you extra revenue, and it's much needed revenue, by the way. But where is that going to be? Because as we saw with Spencer Nussbaum of the Washington Post, he wrote a story about how the Nationals are one of the only teams in baseball not to have a kind of like an AI-generated batting tool for players they are able to see, like, let's say Zach Wheeler's on the mound tonight, and you get to be able to see Zach Wheeler and his pitch slot and everything that comes with it. It's kind of like this new AI tool that basically every team in baseball has, besides the Washington Nationals. So all of that comes into play yesterday. Maybe they can develop on it, and maybe they can try to put something like that over at Nationals Park because it's much needed at this point. But just looking at this month ahead, and it's not just the MLB draft, by the way. We'll get into that just a little bit later on. But whether you take Ethan Holiday, or if it's the left-handed pitcher, Cade Anderson, who might be the front runner at this point, you have to hit on this pick, Nats. There is no excuses anymore. Mike Rizzo has got to hit this one out of the park. And there's a lot of pressure to be in that situation. I think the Nationals, again, entering this draft class, we are putting pressure on this organization. And I think it's not just the fans, it's not just the media, it's baseball as a whole. The game, it's been passing by this Nats team for years at this point. As we saw in yesterday's show, or just day in general, the AARP patch, and the pitching machine, the Nationals might potentially invest in at some point. But right now, with where the draft stands, that's my number one headline as we enter July. My number two headline, and last but not least, but the trade deadline, July 31st. What will the Nationals do? Right now, I've got a couple of names to watch at this year's trade deadline. Number one is the obvious one, who at this point, I'd probably bet on him being traded. That's Kyle Finnegan. Everyone is going to want a closer. Everyone's going to want an all-star closer. Kyle Finnegan is on an expiring deal. He's in his mid-30s. Is he really a part of this future? And I think that's what we all kind of talked about this offseason, is when the Nationals were exploring other guys. And when you were potentially last year exploring Kyle Finnegan, you probably have to ask yourself, is this guy a part of the future? And even then, forget the future. This team is not a contender. They'd have to rip off 10 straight wins for them to even be considered in that bucket at this point. So you have to make a tough decision with Kyle Finnegan. And also, guys like Ahmed Rosario, I would trade him for a bucket of baseballs at this point. I like Ahmed Rosario, but again, he does not have a future role with this team at this point. I've considered trading him. Another guy may not be that popular because he's under contract for 2026 also, Nathaniel Lowe. I would consider trading Nathaniel Lowe. I don't know what you can get back in return for, but it's certainly going to be something that I think the Nationals, they're going to have to kick the tires on. And if a team is willing to give up some of their top guys for a first baseman for the next year and a half, someone who's solid defensively, but definitely has taken a step back in that category, someone who's solid offensively, but even then, the numbers, the counting stats are pretty decent, but overall his OPS and his slug could be better. The Nationals are going to have really, really tough decisions to make moving forward. And again, this month, it could really turn the trajectory of this organization. And if you do decide to trade away Kyle Finnegan, if you do decide to trade away Nathaniel Lowe, and you do make that number one pick, and let's say it's Ethan Holiday, things are going to change. And this team and this rebuild, probably the trajectory of what you might be thinking of where this team is, could be a little bit different. I'm excited for what the Nationals could hold here because, again, having the number one overall pick, it's exciting. You should be excited for that. You could land a generational prospect without even knowing it. Ethan Holiday, he might be the real deal. Cade Anderson, he might be the real deal. And also with Mike Rizzo making moves and making trades, I like that ability because that's probably his best trait as a GM. He makes those savvy moves, and all of a sudden, you trade away John Lester and you get Lane Thomas back, a potential all-star. This is the month that the Nationals, they're going to have to be a pig in mud because this team, it needs a change. We all know that. It needs a change, and overall, the trajectory of this team, we don't know where it is. You could tell me that they plan to be contenders next year. I can make that case. But you could also tell me that they're planning to bottom out next season, and I'd say I could see that also. There's a lot of different things that are being going into this Nationals in 2025 and really the month of July. And I think right now, this month is really going to give us a kind of a projection of where this Nationals team will be for the next few seasons. And things are going to change. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And next, let's get into this. Things that I will have to watch for in the second half for the Washington Nationals. There's a lot to watch for. My number one thing, it's my favorite one to watch for. I'll tell you what that is after we tell you about our friends at Monarch Money. And you ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. And whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. And it's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, and you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. What was one surprising thing that you maybe have noticed? Well, I can tell you this. I'm smart with my money now because of Monarch Money. And guys, they are like my personal CFO. And again, I don't have to juggle multiple different apps to check out my financial commands and my goals. Monarch Money does that all. It is my budgeting app, and it's a complete financial command center, and I want that for you guys also. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So we just talked about the month of July being a huge, huge month for the Washington Nationals. Let's get into this now. Things that I will be watching for in the second half. I got a couple of different things here. In fact, I've got about 5 different things. But my number one thing, and this is my thing. This is there's a lot of things to watch for. This may not be the most important, but for me it is. The catcher position. I got to see what the Nationals do here. Keibert Ruiz is under contract all the way through 2030, but it's been no secret. It has not worked, and it probably will not work. What will they do? Will the Nationals stick to Drew Millis? Will they move off of Riley Adams? Will they try to move off of Keibert Ruiz? There's a ton of different things that the Nationals could decide to do as far as their catcher position goes. But I can tell you this, your team is only as good as your weakest link. And right now, catcher position for the Nationals, by WAR standards and really just by the eye test also, is your weakest link. They have to figure out something long-term. And if Keibert Ruiz, even if he does get hot in the second half, or let's say Riley Adams gets hot in the second half, I'm still not going to be fooled because I have seen this before. We have seen Keeber go on tears. It's what he does. And again, I can't go into this offseason thinking again like, oh, Keeber Ruiz just may have turned it around. I've seen it. I've been fooled multiple times over at this point. The catcher position is going to be one thing I think the Nationals are going to have to address this offseason, and in a big way. Enough of this running Riley Adams and Keeber Ruiz out there. It's not working, and it's holding this team back offensively and also defensively. Things are going to have to change. So if I were David Martinez and Mike Rizzo, I'd be giving Drew Millis an opportunity every chance that you get. Even if that gets moving off of Riley Adams or optioning him or doing whatever you possibly can to get someone different in this building. My personal number one storyline, it's the catcher position. For others, it might be this. My number two is young starters. Mitchell Parker, Jake Irvin, Cade Cavalli. The Nationals are loaded with starting pitching talent. Travis Sakura just made his AA debut the other day, walked a ton of guys, did not look his best, but still, I expect him to be in the majors sometime next season with how good he is. I look at guys like Harleen Suzana, and also with guys who aren't even on this team yet or in the organization, maybe a Cade Anderson. The young starters, they're going to have to separate themselves. And in my opinion, Mitchell Parker, Cade Cavalli, Jake Irvin, not really. I think Jake Irvin is a shoo-in to be in the rotation next season, but still, he's had some struggles. And even then, forget the organization. I want to see these guys really kind of prepare themselves to be everyday major leaguers. And Mitchell Parker, while I've liked him, I think at times he's been really good, and he is coming off some solid starts here and there, but he's got to separate himself from guys like Cade Cavalli whenever he makes the jump up back into the majors and whenever he is 100% ready to go to enter this rotation, because the Nationals, they're still banking on him being a solid rotation piece. Jake Irvin, last year, first half All-Star, should have been an All-Star, was not. It was probably the best pitcher that we had in that first half in the first 81 games of 2024. But since then, it's kind of fallen off, has been a little inconsistent so far this season. And you've seen a lot of things spike up and not really be the best version of himself. And then Mitchell Parker, again, a guy that we've talked about, very polarizing pitcher, really good at times. But can he kind of be consistent? And can he be the guy to kind of propel this team and kind of anchor the back end of the starting rotation moving forward? Those are questions that I think we will all of us will have to watch. My number 3 headline, the Nationals defense, specifically the middle infield defense with Luis Garcia Jr. and CJ Abrams. Guys, the time is now. It's now. You have to be better defensively. CJ Abrams, he makes the hard plays. And sometimes you're just like, this guy is so talented. CJ is an incredible defensive player at times. But then it comes to the routine plays and the simple things. And whether it's getting that first step right or the mechanics of him not getting his feet set before he throws, you got to start cleaning this stuff up. You've been in the bigs for a few years now. I need to see you make these routine plays. And I don't have to sit there in my seat wondering, is he going to get that ground ball that's hit right at him? And then will he be able to make the throw all the way to first base for someone who's running like Paul Goldschmidt or someone like that? And Luis Garcia Jr., same goes for him, except he doesn't really make the hard plays either. Defense is a big category of discussion for this Nationals team. It has not been that great. The outfield defense has been really good. We talked about the catcher position and their defense, not been good. But the middle infield and I think Brady House over at third base, that's going to help this team. Nathaniel Lowe, also for him, he was supposed to be a great defensive first baseman. He's been fine. He's been better than what we have had in the past. But still, I want him to be great because we know he has that Gold Glove capability, which we have seen in the past. So defense is another thing that I'll be watching for. Yet another thing, the worst bullpen in baseball, the young bullpen arms, Jose Ferrer, Cole Henry, Jackson Rutledge, other guys in that mix, Marquise Grissom Jr., who's just elected to be representing the Nationals in the futures game. Can they take those steps up? Because Jose Ferrer, again, I still think today he is the nastiest relief pitcher that the Nationals have. And as far as his ceiling goes, by far the highest ceiling that any bullpen arm has. But it has not worked this year. It has been really inconsistent. He's right now going through a nice little positive stretch here as of late. But even then, he has done that times before, and he has gotten blown up. Can this team and can these young bullpen arms really kind of turn a corner? And can they establish themselves as everyday major leaguers? I like what we've got with Cole Henry. And I also like what we have with Jose Ferrer. But really, they are going to have to take those steps up and really kind of take the reins of this thing because they're all we got at this point. And right now, the Nationals bullpen, similar to the defense, it holds this team back. And again, if you have a 3-run lead in the 8th inning, you're not sitting there comfy. You're not. So you're going to have to watch out for this bullpen and see if these young arms can really turn a corner. 2 things we'll get into real quick here. CJ Abrams and his consistency at the plate. There's no really rhyme or reason to this, but CJ in years past, he has fallen off production-wise. Last year, the first half, he was a legit all-star. One of the best offensive shortstops in all of baseball. But last year in the second half, completely fell off. Batted sub 200. Did not have the power stroke. Was not there every single day. Got sent down to AAA after that gambling incident in Chicago. Can CJ continue to be consistent like he has been in the first half of this season? And can he continue to have this just really good plate discipline and all the good things that are coming from him at the plate right now? CJ has been awesome. If I were the Nationals, I'd extend him today. But he's got to be consistent. And can he finish through 162? That's going to be a big question to watch. And my last but not least is the development of Brady House. We talked about this a little bit yesterday and kind of the slower development that it has taken for him to really kind of get ready to be an everyday major leaguer. But Brady House has got the talent to take this job and run with it. But what will he do when it's August 15th and no one's showing up to the ballpark and it's 95 degrees? How will he react to that? Will he kind of take these moments and run with it and be a really good, productive third baseman? Or will he go the other direction? These are all things I think we have to watch out for. And I do think the development of Brady House will come. And I do think CJ Abrams will be consistent. I think the bullpen young arms, it's going to be a yo-yo. They're going to be good, and they're also going to be bad. There's a lot of different things that could go the Nationals' way, but just to kind of put a bow on this whole conversation, looking ahead of the future for the Nationals with the month of July, then really just the second half as a whole. It was a brutal first half here for the Nats. Things are going to have to change. And this month and this second half, this organization could be completely different come October if this thing goes lopsided. So keep that in mind as we watch the second half of the Nationals and as we get into the month of July. But thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen. Next, let's talk about the Nats-Tigers series. We'll discuss that after we tell you about our friends at FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? And with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Like tonight, I've got a James Wood anytime home run going against Jack Flaherty, who can give up the long ball. And James Wood, he loves those red porch seats out in left center field. I think he gets a home run tonight in that ball game. And also C.J. Abrams. I think he goes long, gets a long ball in there also. And watch out for a double for Nathaniel O. He's got some success against Flaherty in the past. Or if you're new to FanDuel, well, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So we are in July at this point. The Nationals, they got to start winning ball games. And really, you're going to have to start showing us a lot more than what you have, because tonight's game and tonight's pitching matchup, there is going to be some runs. Jack Flaherty going up against Trevor Williams in tonight's game. Flaherty so far in the season in 16 starts, he's got a 1.23 whip, a 4.80 ERA, and Jack Flaherty has really struggled some. But looking at it this way, in those 16 starts, he has given up 16 home runs on the season. He's giving up a home run every start, and when you have James Wood in this lineup, it's easy to look at that righty-lefty matchup and say, eesh, good luck, Jack Flaherty. On the flip side of the coin, though, we've got Trevor Williams in the bump tonight. The struggles have been real as of recent for Trevor Williams, although I will say this, there have been times where it has been better, like this last start against the Padres was not his best start, but the start before that against the Rockies and the Marlins, and actually against the Rangers also before that, he looked pretty good. So I look at Trevor Williams, maybe he's kind of turned the corner here. Maybe we can kind of find some consistency where we all expect him to be around that 5-6 inning mark every single time out there. And that's where things will change. But this Tigers team and this offense, they're really good. Really, really good. As we've seen with the All-Star race, I mean, they've got a ton of guys in that All-Star game, and they deserve it. They're a really good team. And looking at this rebuild and kind of where things have gone for them, a few years ago, people were wondering if it was totally dead in the water. And it's not. This team, they have built smart. They have taken the long road to get here, but they are here, and they are a good team. And they've got great pitching to go with it. Unfortunately for the Nationals, we're missing Tariq Skubal at this point, the AL Cy Young winner. I guess that's fortunately, but also unfortunately, because I wanted to see him pitch at Nats Park. But man, we'll see if the Nationals can get a series win. And we'll see if the Tigers can take advantage of a poor baseball team right now. So thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.